Yeah, good. Really enjoying the session, Darryl, as well as what you put together to start with. Again, with my job with Hockey Alberta, just working with coaches of all levels, and a, a little bit of a background, but more a question for you. There is a fly in the ointment in all of this, and it isn't even the coaches that we're talking about. Some will buy in and some won't to Socratic coaching and systems versus principles and teaching hockey sense, all of that. But it's parents, and they end up having a major influence, starting with kids even as young as 9 years old, at least in Alberta, having watched it, where the importance of winning, good refereeing, all of those things take precedence over the whole development thing. So the thing of the journey versus the destination. So there's a big circle of influence in the sport, and I'm sure it's happening even like Michael with you down in the U.S. and it's a huge issue. And it's caused a lot of grief in Alberta where there's new leagues forming and et cetera, just because people aren't happy with things. What's your suggestion on us trying to support, help, give advice, teach parents? Like I think of the Hockey Canada side of it, and they years ago put out a whole bunch of stuff on parents, it was like 30-second video clips in commercials. And what they talked about is just different scenarios about parents butt out, let the kids play, let them have fun, the car ride home, stuff like that. But have you seen or do you know of anything that can help us get the message out to parents?
I haven't really seen anybody. I think if anybody had the secret sauce, it would cost $1 million and they'd be selling it to everyone who could. It's one of those types of things that it's a really difficult question. There's no easy answers to it, which is why we ask the same question every year. I think that it's a really good question. All I'm going to offer you is just my own 2 cents and my own thoughts of what I would or what I think is important. But of course, none of it's really tried and true and say, well, this is what you do and this is the anticipated result. The truth of the matter in my mind is where when you view parents and especially the ones that are really overactive and are looking to like dictate or control environments to improve the conditions that are more favorable for their own kids or whatever the case may be, it comes down to educating them and having an actual, like, you have to have a plan and a solid philosophy that's based on quality research about what's best in actual player development. And then you have to be able to educate your coaches to be able to execute that. And then the parents become a management tool from which you're going to help manage the kids to be able to go in there. So oftentimes the parents, kind of their importance in the grand scheme of things, gets leapfrogged over top of everything else because it's such a daily problem. And so then it becomes like it's almost like the firehouse effect, right? The best way to have a great firehouse is to prevent fires, not to actually have people that are really good at putting fires out. So in my mind, it starts with overall philosophy. Like Wally's going to talk about a mission statement. I think that's critical. You're also going to talk about how players should be coached and what types of things are important for the betterment of all and the good of the game. And we're not just, your child's not the only kid in which we're trying to influence here, although that's the thing that you care about the most. And when people watch the game, they watch their kid. I'm a parent. And I like to think I've been around this game. I see it at different levels. When I watch her play, I watch her. I genuinely I watch her. And when she's not playing, then I watch the rest of the shift, but rest of the shift's going on. But when she's on the ice, I'm interested in what she's doing. So I'm just as guilty as anybody else. But what we don't do enough of, I don't think, is we don't educate parents. And the reason we don't educate parents is because I don't know that we have a solid enough philosophy and way in which we want to operate that we can confidently present. It's so haphazard that it provides these little holes and cracks and windows from which parents who are, don't have the best intentions for the greater good of the entire group, they use those holes and cracks and stuff to exploit, to then create more problems, to then stack the deck in their own kids' favor. That's not going away anytime soon. How do you prevent that? Well, you got to close those holes, and you close those holes by, I think, presenting a better front. The challenge you have, it all sounds great. Listen, I'm not under any illusions that this is like the secret sauce, because now the problem is that you got to go to coach development to be able to execute it. And it's so hard. You as an organization come up with a mission statement. You're like, listen, we believe in, this type of development. We're going to educate our coaches in this thing. The coach comes in, he's there for 1 year, boop, he's out. You got to have another one. You're constantly trying to train. You got people with all different levels of experience. It is a nightmare. It's really, really hard. If I had the answers, I certainly wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I would be sitting on a beach somewhere. But the issue is that it's an age-old problem, which sounds like it has simple solutions. And I think that what I'm talking about, everyone would agree with. The execution of that is so difficult, and the flow, the interchange of coaches on a year-to-year basis, and the variance of abilities of those coaches makes it very difficult to influence, and it's tough, very tough. And I don't ever want to come across as someone who can just flippantly just offer some high level 10,000 foot view that feels like criticism to those on the ground floor who are actually going through these problems. I don't really have the answers. I know what the answers should be, but the execution of that, I don't have any solutions to that. And I feel like that's the problem. I know, Barry, you and your group, you guys, there's no question. You can lay out, if you haven't already, have the entire system and structure in place as to how the whole thing should go. But when it gets to the next layer and educating your coaches, and you got people coming and going, it's just so difficult. And so those best laid plans, you put it to the execution level, there's cracks in the foundation, there's holes all over the place. And the parents who they're looking for those holes, looking for those cracks to stack the deck in their own kids' favor. They're just constantly exploiting them, and it's a major issue. And I don't ever want to come across as someone who's just flippantly going to disregard the great work that you guys do under tremendous difficult circumstances. I don't really have the answers. I just don't. I don't know how to execute it, and it's really hard. You need to come at it I would try to come at it from a human perspective, but even then, it's really difficult. There are people who just genuinely believe the secret to success in hockey is to stack the deck in their kids' favor as much as possible and eliminate all the other competition as they go along. And you just can't there's such a narrow viewpoint of what's going on, and the number of people that create problems where, yes, your kid is the best kid in a city of 20,000 people. When we expand to the region, and now we're talking about 200,000 people, they're not even in the top 10. And then when we talk about the entire province, they're not in the top 300 kids in the entire province. They're not even in the top 300 kids. And yet you're going to argue with me about giving them more ice time, or cutting this kid, or going down to 2 lines, or whatever it is that they were playing with this player, or this player should be cut, and all the other things, or mistreatment, all the things that go on there. It's just a lack of perspective. So I would love to say you need to educate more, but by the time I give you the list of things you need to educate, you spend more time educating and not enough time teaching. Like, you got to go through ethics. You got to go through, the actual way you want to play, and your development philosophy. And then you got to talk about all these other things that I just spoke about. And then you got to talk about what's best for all the kids and the decision. I mean, by the time you're going to be so meetinged out, like, I just don't know how you execute that. And I wish I had that answer. I just don't. So I apologize, Barry, because I've gone on a 5 to 7 minute diatribe, and at the very end of it, I've given you a grand total of nothing.
No, I do appreciate it, and I sort of threw it out there as a fishing line. Yeah, we do those things, and Tim would be an example of somebody who's mentoring this year for us. And one of the first thing that's put in their critical path is they do a mission statement with their staff, and then they'll do one with the kids once a team's selected. And that stuff comes from Wally, from all the years of suggesting that we do it. So we do it now, but that's only with select groups. So the stuff that you're talking about is the truth. I know Wally puts this out there, so that's one of the reasons why is people, we can share it with others that they can at least hear and become more cognizant of it. It's an issue because not only do we lose players because of certain things every year, but the coaches, especially the young ones, and the officials, when they start getting barraged, it's like, I've had it. I don't need any more of it. So, no, I really appreciate your honesty and candor. Thanks.
Why anyone would ever sign up to be an official in minor hockey, it just takes a special kind of person to do that. And the fact that we lose people who are actually interested in doing that is crazy. And like I said, I've said it 1,000 times. Look, I haven't met a referee that has been able to be over 50% to my liking. I just haven't. Every time he makes a call, it's 50% right. He's never going to get good. It's only going to be 50%. And a lot of the calls are 100% wrong. It's wrong for everybody. I mean, it's just hard. And you get these young kids and trying to come in and but get involved in the game. I mean, it's really hard. And there's just no way hard way to control that. COVID offered an opportunity to keep people out of the ranks. I just don't think that's the answer either. There's been a lot of discussions about, well, we got to keep parents out, and they're not going to stay out. I know myself, my kid's near the end of her minor hockey career. Like, she's done minor hockey. Now she's in junior. So one more year left, and then she's going to school, and she's gone. I'm hanging on by a thread here. I love it. I want to go to every game. I want to go to every practice. I know it's coming to an end. And once it's gone, it's gone. It's never coming back. It's just such a great thing to enjoy with your child, to be around their sports. I love being there. I want to be at everything. I work my entire work schedule to make sure that I can come and watch all of her games and stuff. So I don't want to be shut out of the rink. It's going to be over in a second. And for a lot of people who are not as fortunate as me, who had a kid who was passionate about it, I mean, kid's going to join hockey at 5 years old and be gone by 11 or 12.
Yeah.
It's like they're gone. They have other interests. They have other things. They have bad experiences, or they do other things. I mean, that's a crime. It's so hard. And so I don't want to be banned from the rink. I don't think any parents should be not encouraged to come and enjoy watching their kid. Problem is, you take the good with the bad. You're going to get people that are looking for holes, and they're strategizing and commiserating with the other parents and trying to work angles and all. That's just how it is. And I don't know how you get around that, but I do really want to make sure that it's you guys that are on the ground floor trying to come up with those solutions. All you can do is fight the good fight every day. Try to make an impact as you go along. I just don't know if you're going to solve the problem, but you can definitely alleviate it. And if you can keep another kid in the game for maybe a little longer, I think that's probably your best thing you can do.
Well, last thing, I got to roll too. I've got a meeting, but last thing, Darryl, is once your daughter leaves, she'll come back because you'll have grandkids, and then you can do it all over again.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm actually looking forward to when she starts coaching, because then I can see what real impact I had on her or not. That's when I'm really going to know whether I made an impact or not, is if I watch her in front of a group of kids and listen to how she approaches it, because I'm certain that I will hear my voice coming from her, especially at the beginning until she finds hers. And that's when I'm going to find out what real job I've been able to do with her.
And just before you jump off, Barry, and we all know this, and I would totally agree that, parents can be a real fly in the ointment, and I'm free to point my finger because I'm not one. But, sadly, far too many coaches are complicit in that attitude or approach that winning is number one. And me as a coach looking good and padding my resume by having a winning team take far too much space in the whole developmental or lack of developmental process with far too many teams. Like to be a leader, as coaches are, really in a nutshell, is to serve. It's not to benefit from those you are leading. And so I think it's really important that although parents get kicked all over the block, there are far too many coaches that are in it just to win so they can look good. And, that's just a backwards approach, definitely in my mind. It's sort of hand in hand with that, I think, going way back to, what's appropriate at what age levels, and the NHL is different than minor hockey, and certainly it is. And really, in a nutshell, if you're putting development first for Ella or for an Adam kid or anybody else, there needs to be, on the part of the coaches, a lot bigger margin for error for making mistakes. And I think that's largely what Darryl's, a large part of what Darryl's talking about is, if I make a mistake reading the game, trying to take into account some of the risk factors I need to take into account, if I make an error, I don't need to be told, don't ever do that. I need to have a discussion about, what was I trying to do? What happened? What can I do differently next time? And that's the essence of, sort of developmental coaching. And I think the essence of Darryl's whole approach, which I totally agree with. And sort of lastly, on the mission statement thing, and I think it's great that we all do it with our Hockey Alberta groups. It's important for all the coaches out there. It's one thing to do a mission statement. It's another thing to abide by it and coach by it and be accountable to it and deploy it at the appropriate times. So it's a great exercise, absolutely. But we all know there's going to be situations you need to be prepared to stick to your guns. This is what we're in it for, development, number one, not winning, if that's what it is. And you need to be prepared to defend that mission statement. And thanks again, Darryl, for jumping on. This has been fabulous. And I got to jump out as well today. I
gotta bounce, so I'm gonna bid you guys adieu. But I do appreciate you guys listening. I thank Wally for taking it and asking me to put it out there. We don't normally, but I thought this was a good one, and he thought it was a good one, and it's turned out to be a phenomenal discussion we've had over multiple days. And this is another really good example of just being able to bring some of these ideas. And they're just conversation pieces. That's it. They're just conversation pieces that maybe influences the way someone thinks, that could influence and help a kid who, we're trying to influence their hockey sense. And I think it's a worthwhile discussion. So that's why we did it. So thanks again.
And Sammy, thanks for the advertising on the para game, because I needed that. So I'll definitely be tuning in.
Wish Billy good luck.
Yeah. And Babs.
Listen,